I'm going to do a little bit of a recap because some people had some questions about some stuff, but then also push it. So it's a little bit of what we covered, but with that pushing it, like I've been stressing the past few weeks, because it's now you're at the point where you've got some knowledge and you've been steadily designing and working in After Effects. Let's see if I can do multiple ones with that. I'm going to start off with a new composition, 1920, 1080, 10 seconds, sure, why not? Okay, so here's my main animation. And first, I'm going to put a field in it. And it's way too small. So I just grabbed whatever. I'm going to roughly size these out. Now we can get cooking. Parallax. We covered it a while ago. I'm going to go back into it. Parallax is when you've got your layers spread out in 2.5D or 3D space. I clicked switches and modes, 3D enabled all my layers. And then you spread them out on Z space. So I'm going to select all these, hit P for position. And since I 3D enabled them, I have Z space right there. The sky should be the furthest in the background. Now, when you go to a positive number, it sends it away from the camera. So let's say I do 15,000 for the sky. And you'll notice it got very small. So I'm going to have to scale that up, fill it back up. Go a little bit past my screen edges. Okay, fine. So if that's 15,000, this tree line, I'm going to do 10,000. Scale that up. Go a little bit past the edges of my screen. This field is going to be my midground, so I'll do 5,000 for that. I'm just numerically choosing 5,000s to work off of in the interest of saving time. You do whatever works best for you. And all of this is going off the screen a little bit. All right, now the bunny I'm going to want in the foreground, and this tree is going to be in the foreground too, and that tree is going to be my midground. So I'll keep that at 0. Probably this tree right here. Okay, that one will keep at 0. This one, I'm going to go negative, so it's closer to the camera. So I'll go negative 5,000, and the bunny, I'll go negative 10,000. That might be too far, but we'll find out. So Parallax, I need to have a camera in the scene. So if I orbit my camera, you see my 3D layer stack. That's parallax taking place. Also, things that are closer to the camera move faster than things that are further from the camera. That's another example of parallax. So let's zoom out, find our stuff in the foreground. It's probably too far in the foreground. Yep, there we go. So the tree, instead of minus 5,000, I'll do minus 1,000. And then the bunny will be minus 2,000. So we don't have to zoom out so far. And then we can zoom in with the camera. Good. Let's fill this up a little bit. Every time you go scaling stuff around and repositioning it, you know, just make sure it fills up the frame so everything makes sense with your scene. So we'll scale this up. All right, great. And I'll move the bunny over to the side a little bit. Okay, so if I zoom into my scene, the parallax works. So zooming in, you're seeing the parallax effect, and we've added a lot of depth to what was a still photo. I'm just going to watch that I don't go too far or move my camera too much, up or down or sideways. So I set up a scene, and let's talk about compositing. Compositing is taking multiple images and creating a scene out of them. So I grabbed this field, I kept the scarecrow, I've got a tree. Yeah, okay, let's move that over there a little bit. The trees are a different layer, the sky is a different layer. That's how I got the parallax. All of these images don't really blend together because they were taken from different photos and they've got different white and black levels. So that's why it's not working so well. So I'm going to go off of the bunny right here in the front. The bunny's my darkest image, and I'm going to match everything to that because I'm going for a horror theme. Always think of your style, your look and your feel when you're compositing and doing your motion design. So I'm working off of this, and these darks right here are deeper than those darks. So I'm going to do one image at a time. So there's the bunny and the field. So I'm going to hide all this. Zoom out. I turned off my camera. Let me turn it back on. All right, there we go. First, I've got to find the black and the white values of the bunny. So here's how I'm going to do that. I'm going to put a black and white effect on the bunny and the field. So we're only looking at tonal values. So first I just made it grayscale because I don't need the color information just yet. We're only looking at the tones. Now we're going to look for the darkest spot on the bunny. That's going to be like the fur over here off to the side. So I already know that's the darkest spot. I could always adjust the levels if I needed to find it faster, but we don't need to do that in this situation. Here's my info panel. Right here. So anyone who's going to be compositing stuff together, I expect you to take these steps to get the best looking scene possible so it doesn't end up looking like what I just threw together in 5 minutes. Here's the info. So if I hover over, it's going to tell me what pixel information I'm on. Right here. It's filling up in the info panel. So I'm going to change this by going to my little hamburger menu and choosing HSB. Hue, saturation, brightness. So if I go over to the darkest spot, like right here by the eye, my black is 4%. I'm going to write that down on a notepad so I don't forget it. So that's almost completely black right there. Now I've got to find the brightest part of the bunny, which is right here. That's 100% white. It's a very high contrast image. It's almost fully black and fully white with all right amount of tone in between. So next, I'm going to throw a levels effect on my field and the bunny just in case I need it. But I think moving forward, I'm just going to be working on the field now that I've found my information from the bunny layer. We're going to use levels to match the black levels and the white level, and it'll definitely make the image sit in the scene a lot better. Otherwise, it'll just look like beginner level Photoshop. All right, so I've got levels selected. I'm going over to my info panel. Remember, I've got to have levels selected over here first in effects. So I'm going over to info, going to my hamburger menu, and I'm going to choose percent from the dropdown. So what's going to happen now is I've got percentages in levels that I can use to match the percentages I found when using the info panel on the bunny layer. So things will match. It'll be a 1-to-1 comparison. So my black is 4 and my white is 100. I'm going to change output black to 4, the white to 100. Already the darkest part matches now. So the 4 and the 100 that I got from before on the bunny layer, I used on the levels for the field. That is matching up a lot better already. Now remember, your values will be different. Just look for the darkest and the lightest part, and then you go match the rest of your layers to that. This is a histogram. In case anyone doesn't know how to read a histogram, the far right is pure white, the far left is pure black. And these are the pixel representations. So we're not quite hitting a big stack of pure white or pure black. I'm going to do the same thing. I could just copy this levels effect as well as the black and white. So I'll copy both of those, paste them here. Layer stack matters, black and white first, then levels. And that's looking pretty good. I'm going to turn on the other tree in the background, paste my effects onto it. That's sitting pretty good. And I'll get the trees. Now the trees, they're going to be different because they're in the background. So the further away something is, the less contrast it's going to have. So since this is closest, it's the punchiest, I'm going to knock down the contrast on the trees a little bit because they're further off in the background. Oh, wait a second. Okay, wait. Sorry about that. I grabbed the wrong slider. Wait a second. I'll show you what I meant. One second. Let me just fix that. I was going too fast. The slider I meant to be grabbing is right here below the histogram, not the black level right there. So my output black, change it back down to 4%. Now I'm changing the distribution of the pixels better. So I'm going to, let's make that a little bit darker. Just add a little bit of depth to the scene. Make sure that's back at 4 again. And I can slide this slider to adjust the distribution more uniformly. Match it up better. Good. It's this slider right here. There we go. That, and then it's just pasting my effects onto the sky. Zoom out. Slide this slider. There we go. Tonally, that's working a lot better. So we got our scene looking a little bit more uniform before we start adding particles into it. So now I can turn off black and white because I don't need that on there anymore. Now we can start juggling the saturation of our layers. So I'm going to use hue saturation for that. The trees are far too vibrant. So I'll knock down the greens and the yellows. There we go. And the sky is a touch too vibrant for my liking. So I'll desaturate that a little bit. Okay, that's a bit better. So any questions on how I got this scene to sit a little bit better? The next thing I can do is start worrying about blur. Like the sky is in the background. So I could throw a Gaussian blur. So I would blur that the most because it's furthest away. Or you could use a blur map if you wanted to get really fancy. But I'm just going to do this numerically. So if that's 45 and the trees are in the foreground, from that, I'll make it 30. The field, I'll use a blur map for the field because that is receding into the background from this tree. Let's just do 15 on the tree. Now we're starting to get some blur here. The other tree. So if these are 30, I'll make that one about 25. See? Now it's starting to come together. And when I do this blur map, it'll make it look like the focal plane is falling back. So like what's closer to the bunny will be in more focus and what's closer to that tree line. Okay, so I'm going to use the camera lens blur effect and a gradient for my blur map. The gradient's what's going to be driving it. So I'm going to go layer new, solid. Okay. Throw a gradient ramp on there. Now we're starting to get somewhere. We're going from pure white to pure black, and we'll adjust those with our value sliders right here. So this, I'm going to hide below everything. The field is what we're going to put the camera lens blur effect on. Okay, here's our camera lens blur effect. I put it on the field, and what's going to be driving that is this gradient I just made. Okay, so here's my field, blur map. I'm choosing my gradient, which I misspelled. I'll do effects and mask. Okay, and now we're going to see, the more I move the white up, I'm going to slide this down so you can see it. See, white is what's in focus. So black should be my blur. Oh, wait, that looks like, okay, hold on, wait a second. Let's try swap colors. I'm going to spread out my gradient a bit more. Okay, the closer black is to the bottom, there we go. Now it's starting to work. I'm moving the black up a bit. So I get my blur looking the way that I want. I'm pretty happy with that. Let's see the difference. Watch the field only. See? There's the effect off. There's the effect on. It's a gradual increase in the blur, just like in real life, with the natural fall off of focus. I can even adjust where the blur starts, so it sits even better. Now that I've got this working out pretty good, I can try and get fancier with using the tombstones that I brought in as a particle system. So I'm going to hit save. Again, like I said, if you're going to be working off of images, I want your white and black levels uniform. I want to see a fall off of focus. I want this type of depth so that if you bring in a camera, you've got parallax. You can move around in this 3D world that you created. Okay, just flat images aren't going to cut it at this stage of the class. And remember, to add something, you got to make sure that your timeline is selected. So I'm going to add a new solid. Put this over top of everything. Technically, it should be below the bunny because the bunny's the closest to the camera. So should be above the field too. Okay, we're going to use CC Particle World. I only have to set up the particle system once, and then I can just duplicate it and put the other crosses in, one for each. All right, now, before I go throwing in the particle, let's try it here. Let's see. We're going to spread that out wider than the field. It's not going up in there. It's going to there. We'll give it a long life. Okay, so now I'm going to work on my first particle. There we go. Let's see what my composition size is for this. Good. It's small enough. It's already named. So I'm going to grab all of these, put them here, turn them off so I don't see them. Go back to my particle, and I'll choose textured square. So I've got hard edges because I don't want a soft edge around each of these. So I'll pick the first one first. Got that. Go make it white so it keeps its color. Oh, wait a second. I'm going to need multiple ones. I forgot. Let me drop down my preview res. I'll make my producer a little more narrow. So there's more on the screen. Why aren't I seeing these? Maybe it's my particle engine. Let's try the resistance. Let's turn that down. Get rid of the velocity. We'll set these to 0. Set the maximum opacity. I don't want them fading off or on. That's weird. Why have they not appeared yet? Oh, I think I figured it out. Let's make it 3D. Because it's a 3D scene. I totally forgot about that. That's probably what happened. Oh wait, I don't need to make it 3D. It happened once I added in my texture. Maybe it's because it was below the camera layer. Let's see if it's something that silly. Oh, wait a second. I think I may have figured it out. It's the image, the way it came in. That's what did it. When I brought it in, it came in as that. So let's try. Good, now it's not flickering. And this needs to live longer too. It was only 4 frames. Okay, I knew we'd start figuring it out. Like I said, motion design is a bunch of troubleshooting. So this freeze frame, it's preventing that from happening. My sequence is a lot longer. There it is right there in the scene now. So I can hide that. Go back to my particle. Now it's working. There they are in the scene. Okay, that worked. Good. So 1 is actual size for this. Okay. Let's put those there. Let's try less of them. Spread them out some more. Okay, like that. Okay, fine. Let's do even less, because I'm going to have multiple ones of them. Spread them out in Z space. All right. We'll stick with that. I'll duplicate it. And on the duplicate, in my particle, I'll choose the next one. And then I'll just randomize it a little bit with the random seed. So it doesn't line up completely with the other one. So now I've got to go and do that same thing to the second one. So that's what the first one looks like. That's what the second one looks like. Let's see, what's the third one look like? Okay, the third one is working properly and it looks the way it should. So I'll use the third one. There we go. Now we've got 2 different style crosses. And I filled up that space a bit. If I had this on its own layer, I wouldn't have to worry about the crosses bumping into it. But as you can see, I just got to watch where they go based upon my camera movement. But that's just an example of layering out a scene, doing some parallax, and then using an image as particles to help fill up the scene. That's the first one. So I'm going to make another scene. And I'll put this in the background. Okay, good, that fits. Okay. Let's move her over a little bit. All right. So, again, I've got 2 still images. I'm going to go here. And I'm going to click on tree. I'm going to copy the black and white and the levels. Paste them right here. I'm going to hide my levels. My info, I'm going to set back to HSB. Darkest part is 0, and the brightest part is 100. So I got that information. I'm going to set this back to percent. Go paste them on here. So if I set that to 0, oops, and that to 100, I can adjust this however I want. That's looking pretty good. So now I can go back here, add in the color if I want. Okay, so I've got this shot and I can get creative with it. Again, I could have dust particles going by, things like that. I could also get experimental with it. Let's see. So if I give this a negative, it'll flip it. Okay, good. And I could try and line up the perspective and make it look like the hand is coming out of the wall. Put my effects on there. slide around this one till it sits in the scene a little better. I'm liking that. Okay, and let's move you over here. And let's go back to our arm. So we want to pretend this is coming out of the wall, maybe casting a shadow or something like that. You could also puppet pin the fingers to move. All right, let's do that. So moving it out of the wall. We'll move it semi-slowly. This is where it's going to end up. Go back here. Now it looks like it's going to be coming through the wall. Okay, fine. Now, how can we mask that? What we can do is match the perspective. So I've got this selected. I'm going to use my pen tool for the mask. I'm lining up here. Up there, trying to match perspective as best I can. And I'm going to press M for mask. I'm going to choose subtract. Obviously, I'm going to have to make this bigger. Like such. Okay, good. Aha. We've got that happening. All right, fine. No drama. So I'm going to delete that mask. Pre-compose the arm. Move all attributes so the keyframes go inside. Now I can draw the mask. Got my precomp selected. Okay, fine. M for mask. We're going to choose subtract. Okay, there we go. Make sure it covers the full thing. Good. I can click here to hide my mask. Preview my animation. Great. Now, let's hit F for feather, so it's not such a hard blend. Now we've got a hand coming out of the wall. Hooray. And while it's doing that, let's add some life to it. So we got the hand fully out. Fine. We use puppet pin. Go pin here. There. Come on. We delete that. Let's try that again. Turn my mask back on. Okay, you know what? Let's delete that effect. I'll try one more thing. I'm going to pre-compose this one more time and see if it's because there was a mask on that layer. Here's where it is, okay. Because of the mask, and the mask did mess it up. So I had to pre-compose the art one more time. Now I'm going to add some life to these fingers. Okay, great. So that's where those end up. Interesting. They did not move with it. Okay, let's try this then. Let's delete the puppet engine here. Go deep inside here. All right, so this is where we're going to start some of our motion. It stops moving here. Okay, fine. And this motion will still work because of the pre-comp we've got going on. So let's try that one more time. Okay. So there's the hand out. I'll move a little bit. Zoom in a little bit. Yep. Now it's working. So you can move your puppet pins one at a time, or select multiple ones. Try and keep your, what was I trying to say? Try and keep the size consistent. Let's see if I can click and drag to select the puppet pins. That works inside the puppet pin selected. Okay, good. Now I'm going to click and drag here. Good. A few more. Let's try. I'm outside the bounding box. That's what's doing it for me. Steps down a little bit. Okay. See? A little bit of extra life. Now let's see it with the masking on. Now it went a little bit below the mask. So that would be here. Let's see. Here's our mask. We'll turn the mask back on so we can see it. Yep, okay, it's working there. Like that. Hooray. Got that little bit of motion. Okay, let's see if we can push this further. Let's duplicate that. Well, let's see. Before we do that, let's see if there is a cheat. I don't think there will be. The drop shadow is helping add some depth there, where it's meeting the wall. So I am happy with that. Nope. Okay, so I'm going to keep that part to add a little bit of depth. Let's see something. Okay, I'm liking that. All right, so here's what we'll do. I'll duplicate this, make the second one shadow only. Nope, okay. So we're not good with that. We're going to duplicate this, make this one a shadow, put it below the first one. Shadow only, we'll change the distance, fine. We'll soften it a bit. We'll change the opacity a little. Now we can affect the direction of it. Okay, that's not going to work too much there. So let's try, now that we've got this following it, and it's got the same motion, let's do, I bet I could do, let's try Bezier warp. And what this is going to do, this is going to drag some of these points based upon where we want them to be. Let's get rid of that. Arc rotation. And then we'll just line that up with the base. P for position. S for scale. Fake that a little bit. And what we'll do is we'll, right here is where that will enter. We've got it more under control. And we could adjust the mask on that one, so it ties into the wall a little bit better. But you see how this shading here is helping sell the effect. We would just be more careful with our masking there. And if you want to see what that would look like, that would be, I've got that layer selected. I need that down that much. So do M, we'll subtract that. I could always keyframe this path if I need to, so I'll click there. Turn off my mask so I don't see it. There we go. That fixed it with just that one little thing. So I could also, like we said, we could add particles in here for some dust and all that. You could also get, let me hit save. You can push your scene more. I'll do a solid. Gotta have my timeline selected. If I want to adjust the light in here, I can, well, hide this. And what I can do is, see if we want to do raise, you know what? I could mask around these windows if I wanted to, and then feather it. I'll show you what that's going to look like in a second. So I'm going to put this below both arms, turn it back on, hit M, change this to subtract. I've got both of them selected, so I'm going to press F for feather, both of them at the same time. Let's feather that out a little bit. Okay, good. So now I go T for transparency. add a little bit of mood, but I could also, if I went option click, let's try wiggle, see if we can get this to flicker. Let's try 3,300, click out of it. See, so I did something a little playful there with that. Now let's go to our main image. Type in light, see what type of, oops. Go back to my arrow. Let's see what type of light tools we've got. Let's try light rays. Why not? Oh, there we go. Now we're getting something interesting happening. You could even animate that around if you wanted to as well. What if, let's try this. You ready? I'm just getting experimental because that's what this is all about tonight. I'm going to twirl down here, T for opacity. Oh no, it wasn't that layer, sorry. T for opacity, see? I've got this. Now, what if I adjust the intensity of this light to that? See if I can get those to work together. Yep. See, now I've got multiple things driving the scene and adding life to it. So, do you see how much life we bred into? I mean, you know, just simple puppet pinning of the arm and the shadow and the shading and just experimenting with some light and stuff like that. We did some visual interest to just some still photos. Like, hopefully you found this helpful. Just this little like extended brainstorming session. Did anyone find this useful?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
Okay, because I'm just showing you. Yes, you can have a still image, of course, but you know, you can also push things like the dress. If we, let's see, so that's the ghost layer. So let's do, zoom out. I've got the ghost selected. I'm going to put an adjustment layer. If I do, you know, let's do turbulent displace. I might be able to make it look like the dress is moving a little bit. So if I got the ghost, here we go. Okay, so that's going to do the whole ghost, which is not what we're going to want. Oh, wait, I've got it figured out. Okay, well, I'm going to take a drink of water. And what would you do if I just wanted to look like the dress parts are flowing?
I mean, you could take it out to Photoshop and just isolate the dress.
I could. You're on the right track. Command D or Control D, duplicate that layer. And now in here, I don't even have to go out of After Effects. I'll mask around the parts that I don't want moving. Go to M for mask, subtract that. And I can hit F for feather, so there's not a hard edge. Not too much of a feather there. Now I throw my turbulent displace on this. And I can change the amount, the size. And all I have to do is just, let's try holding down Alt Option, clicking there in the evolution. Time, asterisk, let's do 150, something slow and subtle. Okay, so it's losing a little bit right there. So I can just fix my mask. Bring that in. Bring that in. Oh, I see what's going on. It's also this part right here. Yeah, so I was just tightening in on my mask. Now we've got that extra life. You do the same to the hair if you wanted. And let's see. Let's go to a part where it's not flickering. Right here, okay. I can move where the offset point's going to happen from. We could increase the complexity to get less of that billowing, blowing out part in the back. That's too high. You know what I could do? I could adjust my mask one more time. There we go. That should fix it. Now the top part is completely still. That helps. And then I would just fix this part right here with, see, we just add a vertex point. And if it got really bad, I would just put the arm over top, like duplicate it one more time and put that on top, but there you go. So I could do the same thing with the hair, separate out the hair, put turbulent displace on there as well. But remember, matching up the black levels, this tonally works very well. Can everyone see that with the arm and the wall? I tried to match the white and black levels as best as possible to help it sit in the scene. Because if you're just going to throw a bunch of stuff together and you don't do your compositing properly, you're really just hurting your motion at that point. Then we played around with like a little bit of a light effect on the wall and then linking that expression to the light effect from the windows. So we could also, if we wanted to, so we got the ghost, we could pre-compose this just to make our life easier. Move all our attributes. Okay, there we go. I'm going to hit P for position, select position, right click, separate dimensions, and just have the ghost float on the Y. So hold down Alt or Option, trusty wiggle. Now it's only going to wiggle on the Y up and down. Let's do twice a second, 30. Remember, you got to click out of your expression field once you see that white arrow. See? And I might say that's too many times per second, so we'll do once. Click out again. A lot of life from those still images. Be even more if I added the turbulent displace to the hair. So I could even put, just to tie it all in together, put the arm underneath the black layer. So the shadows match with it as it moves. Like such. Boom. Instant Blumhouse. Glad you all found that a little bit of insightful. And like I said, all I did was I just grabbed a bunch of images, came in here, and was like, okay, let's see what we can do. And I did those two scenes in 1 hour. And this one obviously is more effective, but this one I was talking through a lot more, like with going back with Parallax and building up the scene. And you also got to learn about the blur map, stuff like that. Like I would put that same blur map, I'd apply it to the particle layers so it matched the fall off of depth of field for the grass. All right, so does anyone have anything for me to look at tonight? All right, so I've got a letter M. I'm going to right click, create shapes. So now it's a shape layer, okay? All right, let's try P for position. I'm going to want it to end up here. So I'm going to work backwards. Let's say it takes this long for it to move. I'll go over to the first frame. Move it off the screen. There we go, fine. Let's do our easy ease. We'll have it click here to zoom, see the whole graph. I'll slow into that, speed out of it a little bit. Zoom out on my timeline. Okay, fine. That's a beginning. Now let's play around with this, because that's what lab time's all about. I'm going to twirl down my arrows, since this is a shape path now. I'm going to go to right here, and I'm going to click my path. Now remember, you can work backwards, and I suggest you do it for a good layout. This is a clean keyframe, meaning I did not do anything to it. So we can go to about, let's say, where does it stop moving? Right about there. Okay, so I'll add a keyframe here. And now let's try. I held down Shift to deselect that one. I'm going to hold down Shift so I just have those two selected. And let's try moving them off the screen. So it's going to look like there's some drag happening. Let me move this to about there. So we time a little better. See, like that. And I can slide this one to get the timing I want. Easy ease these. And I'm going to match a little closer to my original speed graph from the other one. Let me have that go a little bit longer. Let's drag that out a little bit more. So it's a little bit of follow through and overlapping action where the letter's still moving after the other one stopped. Let's kick it up. Let's try some motion blur. Such. So you can do whatever you want with shapes. So if you convert your letters to shapes, you can do special things with your text and use them for leading lines as part of your animation. Or to go from one scene to the next with the letter, if it follows through. Like, you know, having the eye come down to bring you into this scene. There's the timeline. Okay, and there's your keyframes. Oh, film burn. Now just watch right here. See the where the film burn's going to come in?
Yeah.
So if you trim that layer, did that move it? Yeah, I think I moved the layer by accident. So let me hit Alt and P. There we go. So see now how it's nice and clean up until just before that happens. And then you're going to mask this in here and have something happening in there. Is this a squared off handle? Or you can just cut it off there.
Yeah.
And hide that. Both work. So that's your coffee cup. There it is. So you drew a mask. Okay. Yeah, that's super easy to fix. Literally just moving those points and making it look like the perspective. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Nice use of a mask. Do you have a drop shadow on it too? And no, nobody gets extra credit for using my name in their credit sequences. You laugh, but it's happened. And you're laughing because you know it's happened at this school. I purposefully made this type. I mean, that's big enough to read, you know. And I kept the area fairly small to keep it within here, okay? I'm thinking of, I want to stay inside this shape. And I normally say don't go doing, you know, presets, but I'm curious here. Oh, wait. I'm looking for organic. Sorry, right here. This is an organic image. It's got organic motion. So maybe something like simmer or boils. They're boiling, yeah. So wherever my playhead is, that's where the text effect is going to start happening at. So I'm going to have it just as this is done fading in. And that's not half bad. So all I have to do is mask this part and trim where the layer starts. So for this to work, I've got that selected. Got my mask. I'm going to try and stay close to the liquid so it looks like it's coming out of the liquid. Keep it within the liquid. Hit F for feather. Give it a little bit of depth. And now all I have to do is when I want it to start appearing, I trim the layer to start where I want it to start. There's my motion, like such. And another thing I could do is, so if we've got a mask on there, to make it look like it's getting more opaque as it hits the center, I will use opacity for that. So let me see if I can add that to this text animation fast and easy. All right, so we've got all this wiggle happening. Enable grouping per character. Okay, fine. Let me hit U for keyframes. All right, so here's the offset. That's what I was looking for. The offset's what drives these effects. Okay, hold up. I've got some inspiration hitting me. I'm not going to duplicate that. Here's my text. Here's my type. Let's try the mask feather tool. If I increase the feather along here, and then adjust the overall. Okay, so that's where that's going. Now I'm going to hit M for mask. So you can see it working down there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go negative on my mask expansion, feather it even more. Now it's giving us that. Make that a little thicker right there. So that worked a little better. Like that, that's a bit better. Now it looks like they're coming up a little bit better from there. And I can just keep adjusting this part how I want with the mask feather tool. There we go. Not bad. So that's a thought. You know, so that's just playing around with that one animation. You could try other types of things, but I was just showing you how seeing this inspired me to say, what if the image, the text stayed inside there? And then to push it even further, we could try and have it look like the liquid was going over it. So if we did Command D to duplicate that, I'm going to turn off the audio. And let's mask around the water and use it as a subtract. So we're only getting that part. Or maybe it's an add. Yeah, we want to add that. Okay, so we got that going good. Let's try T for opacity. Right about here. I'm going to hit Alt, hold down Alt while doing that. Let's try wiggling it. So we'll go once a second, 100, click out of it. Let's see what that does. See, we got a little bit, we need to increase this. Let's try 400. Let's see. The expression's not helping us. So I'm going to hold down Alt or Option, get rid of it again. All right, now it's gone. Let's see. If we do Luma. Oh, wait a second. Almost there. I'm going to put this above it. Let's try Luma Matte now. Let's try Luma Invert. Forgot to turn that on. Oh, wait a sec. Wait. All right, so if we got that. All right, I've almost got this figured out. 1 second. So if I do an alpha matte, let me hide the one below. We've got that happening. This mask, that's what we're using. All right, let's try. Let me pre-compose this because of the mask. I'm just troubleshooting here, working along, trying to think it out logically. All right, so if that's my type, try Luma Matte. Okay, there we go. The mask was what was tripping me up. Let's try Luma Invert. Okay, we want the Luma. No, I'll put everything back below it. So what I need to do is let's try do normal for here, and let's try a blending mode here. So what we got going on. So we'll keep that. Turn that off. Okay, so let's try exposure. If I make this duplicate darker, it'll stand out more because the liquids are the same color. Yep, we're starting to see it. That's one thing. Let's undo that. So let's try something else. Let's try turn off the matte. Here's our type. We've got this above it. Is it still masked? Okay. Let's try keying out the darker color of the coffee, just for the fun of it. Now we're starting to get something. Okay, so when the darker part, see, that's what I wanted. When the darker part I keyed out goes over it, it's going to look like parts of the liquid are covering it and not covering it. Okay, good. Now, let's fix this text color because it's not very attractive. Because like I said, think about your scene. Something a little darker that ties into it a little bit, but still has pop. Let's coming along a little better. Now let's also, let me hit save. So we got some liquid, so we're going to want something liquidy looking. Let's try adding a layer style. Let's try a bevel. And then from the bevel, I could use maybe like CC glass to give it some liquidy dimension look. So we'll do layer styles. We'll try bevel and emboss. There we go. So we've got a little bit of gradation. I'm not going to be animating this. I'm just going to look at it full res to work more accurately. Why is that looking so blotchy at full res? That's a mystery for the ages. Let me see. Here's the blending style. There's bevel. Oh, now it's okay. It was just running slow. Okay, cool. So we've got some gradation in here, and I know CC glass needs that gradation in order to work. All right, so we'll do CC glass. Throw that on my text. Look at that. So now, oh, hold up a second. All right, let's think here. What if the map is layer 1 to perfectly match the motion of the liquid? Like that. That I am liking. Using the luminosity from the water, the coffee, will perfectly match that. I can choose how extreme I want to go with my look now. It was at 30. Let's try 0. Okay, clearly we're going to want more softness than that, so we'll try 50. Okay, fine. Height, that's the displacement, see? That's what's driving this. Let's do 20. Displacement. Let's see, there we go. Now, the tonal values are animating the text, and we still have that nice little highlight there. Let's try and grab some color from here. Tie it into the shot a little better. Hit undo. And now for shading, I'm kind of liking that. Let's mess around with their specular. Metal. Let's try 0. Let's see what we got going on there now. So this effect is pretty intense, as you can see. I'm going to drop down my resolution to half. Speed up the rendering process. Okay, so let's try and just flat out render this. Sometimes that's just faster than waiting for the computer to do all your dirty work for you. So I'll set this to QuickTime and see what type of estimate it gives me. So I'm curious to see what we did and how it's going to work. I like using the luminescence of the liquid. Let's see, where's QuickTime? I'll just do high quality. I trimmed my render bar area so it's less to have to work. I'm just going to go to a still image. looks like we can go negative as well. So that's giving it some extra motion as well. We'll lower the softness. That should help with the render time. I'll lower the displacement. That'll lower the render time and make it a little bit more legible. Now let's try, if we use a blending mode, sometimes that might help us. I'll do luminosity just to keep the tonal value, and then it'll blend into there. So that's actually pretty interesting looking. What we're getting going on there. Drop that down to 1/4. Preview just this little section. See, it's distorting as it's moving through the liquid. That really helps sell the idea. So we took a preset and just pushed it a little bit more. Now that's moving really fast, as you can tell. So it was good to do this quick little render test rather than commit to that. So we could hit U, look at our keyframes. There's the offset for that. What would happen if I drag that out? It's going to slow it down substantially. Like that. So that's another thing you can do. So that's just showing you a little bit of fun treatment with text. Yeah, now this default was too strong. So let's delete all those keyframes. 1 second. Okay, there's our normal type. Let's scrub along. Nothing's happening to it. I'm going to solo this just so we're not distracted by anything. I'll turn off the glass to speed this up. And that's all we got. Okay, so this is roughly where we want to start animating. So this is a deep dive into the text animator. And we're going to have to ignore all the stuff from the other effect I put in there. So I'm too lazy to get Rivet. Let's do all transform properties. Here's the new one. So, position. If I move this down and I adjust my offset, let's do range selector. Here's the offset. Look, see, now it's moving up. Okay. The offset is going to drive this animation. So I'm going to go here, and then let's just say up to here. So they're coming up one letter at a time. Now we can say, okay, what else are we going to do? We can have these rotate. So they're going to rotate and then straighten as they come up. We could do that. Let's go to opacity. They get more opaque as they go up. The offset is driving all of that. We can also skew these a little. So they're rotating and skewing. Let's go back here. Let's skew that a little less. Change the skew axis, rotation a little bit. Okay. We could also scale them so that they get larger as it goes to the top. Like such. So we got something a little bit similar with that happening. All right, good. So now let's see what that looks like in our scene without using that preset. Oh, let me turn glass back on. There we go. So I could adjust the opacity even more as they're coming up, you know, if that's what I wanted to do, but look at that. instant interest. And the beauty of this is we're using what's already there, and it's going to move with the motion, the timing, and the tones, so it will blend into that scene. That's just another use of CC Glass. I added some beveling to this, but I was originally going to use the highlight from the tones from the bevel to drive this, but instead I used the tone of the coffee to drive it. So it's like, if I go to my layer style, let's see what this looks like without the bevel on it. I think the bevel helps it more. That's just me. So yeah, you know, just a fun little way of pushing up that type idea. Once I saw the coffee, I'm like, oh, you got some liquid. You could try and do something interesting with that liquid.
Yeah, that's like what I was kind of thinking of.
Yeah, and there might even be another way of pushing it even more, where it's like duplicating the layer again and adjusting the opacity of the brightest part. So it's like if I hit Command D here to duplicate it one more time, and let's see if I'm going to keep key light on. Let's see if I turn off key light. That should, yeah, that's going to bury all my type. So I'm going to change the strength of that, make it a little bit more keyed out, and hopefully that'll add. So that's a little too much because it's starting to get discolored now. So let's do screen matte. Let's try and. Okay, that's starting to eat into there. Okay, fine. It's taking away that. We don't want that. But if we did do that, and we just have this. Okay, so we're not going to do that. So how can we add in there? Add a little bit of depth here. Oh, if you look, we're already doing it. So what would happen if I duplicate that one more time? But let's say if let me hide the top one. Try luminosity of these. There we go. See the type? Now it's a little bit more submerged under the brightest part. So I was just using the luminosity of those duplicates, and I adjusted my key light a little bit more. So we got a little bit more of a milky type of look, whereas the darker parts have more of a richness to it with the distortion. All right. Hope that helped you out with your idea a little bit. Yeah, if you've already got something, just try and use it. Like, we've got the coffee. The coffee's got the tones. We can use the tones from the coffee, the motion from the coffee. It's really just trying to find some interesting solutions. Well, if anyone doesn't have anything else, we'll end it there. Hopefully this was a nice break. We could go back to morphing. I just thought this would help everybody looking at compositing, having things sit in the scene. You know, it's really going to help you with your credit sequences. So I figured I'd bump that up. All right, excellent. I'll see everybody Thursday then. You just got to watch the speed at which the stuff's rising up and moving around. So that's why we came up with our own little thing. And I should have this edited down for tomorrow morning. All right, have a great night, everybody.